Good evening and welcome everybody to the Canadian Football Fanatics weekly show. Thank you everybody for tuning in and joining us for another episode and weekly event where we talk all things Canadian football. We have made it, folks, to Labor Day weekend. Let the games begin. Excited to talk some of the matchups this weekend and some of the implications that some of these matchups will have with the results after this weekend. So, Blake, as always, joining me co-hosting. Blake, how you doing, buddy?
Good, yeah. We were talking just a little bit there, and slowly recovering from the weekend that was. I mean, touchdown Pacific coming up, so maybe not gonna recover too much, but slowly but surely, kind of getting back into real life. But it was definitely a good time with some good CFL family and some other CFL podcasters, and great times were had by all. The only thing that could have made it better is if the Lions could have got the W.
Yeah, all good though, buddy. But I'd love to hear about your trip. Obviously, you made your way out east. Were able to take in a few CFL games, I believe a Toronto Blue Jays game. So, how was your trip and how was the East Coast?
It was amazing, Cole. Like it was absolutely beautiful out there. Yeah, we did. We took in a Jays game. We went to the Hockey Hall of Fame out there. We went to the CFL head office actually. Had a bit of a chat with Commissioner Ambrosi, so that was very cool. And then yeah, we went out to Toronto. Took in the Riders and Argos game out there. Took the train over to Ottawa. Spent some time some with a gentleman that most of our viewers, at least I'd hope most of our viewers would know, the bucket guy that set the Guinness World Record, raising money for his CFL Fans Fight Cancer, Chris Tomofchuk, which ironically is now, we think, since been broken by a couple of other fans from Winnipeg. And then took the quick train over to Montreal, caught the Alouettes and Elks game, and did some sightseeing with Cliffy D and Tim Capper from the Alouettes flight deck, and came home yesterday. So lots of good times were had, lots of drinks were had for sure, as I'm sure Shane can attest to when he hops in here in a couple minutes. And oh yeah, that was the other thing I guess I should mention. Shane and I were finally able to meet face to face, so we talked. We had a good time, and it was definitely needed. So ready to get Labor Day weekend started.
Awesome, buddy. Before we get into it and bring Shane on up, is that official? I saw I believe it's a couple, right, from Winnipeg that they were attempting the same world record to go to all nine stadiums and stuff like that. Was that what did they like officially beat his time or?
So it's not official yet because even Chris's time isn't official. Guinness, once you've submitted, you've done all the stuff you need to do, GPS, witness statements. There's a lot of stuff that does go into this. Usually it takes about 11 to 12 weeks to determine that you're officially the Guinness World Record holder. So Chris hasn't even gotten his yet, but I do know that the couple from Winnipeg had asked to expedite theirs. So it is possible that theirs will be kind of fast tracked, if you will, and maybe putting Guinness a little bit faster, even though most likely they'll both get a certificate and everything like that saying that you were Guinness World Record holders for X amount of time.
All right, let's bring up our man Shane Ryan from 13th Man Sports. Shane, thanks for joining us, buddy, and how are you doing?
Not bad. How are you guys doing?
We're doing well. We're doing well. You know, a little bit tired here. Hump day as always, but I'm definitely getting a little bit energized by Touchdown Pacific and stuff. I only have one more day of work, and I'm going to be able to go down to Victoria and enjoy a nice long 4-day weekend, and obviously be able to visit with Blake and the rest of the BC Lions family and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to this weekend and getting a little bit of energy here tonight, preparing for the show and stuff. So looking forward to it as always. Blake, how you doing, bud?
Yeah, doing good. Shane, like we said in the background, it was good to finally meet you in person, and it was a good time had by all. The one thing I do want to mention is that I was very, very.
Blake, sorry to interrupt. Farhan just came out and said that Matthew Betts has agreed to terms with the BC Lions, 145.
Whoa.
What? It literally just came up. Like, just tweeted.
Whoa. Okay.
Sorry to interrupt you. I
Breaking
figured that would
news.
be to put out there right then and there as it was happening. So sorry to interrupt, but I figured you guys.
No, that's
No,
okay.
that's perfectly okay to interrupt with that news.
Great
Shane.
job, by the way, Shane.
You're welcome. My phone lit up. I looked over, saw that it was Farhan,
Hey,
and yeah.
next to Farhan, you might have just broke the news to the 7 other listeners and whoever's listening on Facebook, on Instagram as well. So, Shane with the inside information. We will get into that. I would imagine right after 3-minute drill. Let's bring up Coach, who I see is just joined us. Coach, how you doing? Thanks for joining us.
What up? What's going on? What's the news?
You didn't hear, Coach. Shane just broke it.
Matthew Betts is going back to the Lions.
So it looks like he's only signing a 1-year deal, according to Farhan. At least that's what's reported. It's 145K for the remaining 7 games.
I thought y'all was broke after signing
We
Kid
are broke.
Canada.
Hey,
Kid Canada.
salary cap's like a credit card. You just
It's
we'll pay for it
tax.
down the road. We'll wait for down the road, but we'll get into the we'll talk a little bit more about this in a little bit here, folks. Let's recap last week's action with some 3-minute drill quickly before we talk all things looking forward to, I guess, this signing and all that sort of stuff. Kind of a little bit flustered here, but last week's action. Last week's action began with the Toronto Argonauts. Did he miss? Did he purposely miss? Winning off a missed field goal. Obviously, they get the single, winning 20-19 over Saskatchewan. A very slow game. I believe Toronto kind of got sparked by that Janarian Grant punt return there. It wasn't a touchdown, but it was a big return that gave them a little bit of energy in the fourth quarter. They were able to capitalize and able to win. Obviously, probably not the way that they wanted to. I thought something that was interesting was at the Marcus Sale getting the interception. I believe the Riders' offense only took off like 10 or 15 seconds off the clock, gave the ball right back to Toronto. They were able to carve out a win, even though it was with a little bit of luck, missing the field goal, going out of the back of the end zone. So curious to hear your guys' thoughts after 3-minute drill, but crazy one, and only in the CFL can you win off a missed field goal like they did last Thursday night. So the Friday night matchup was the Bombers getting another victory over the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Another very defensive matchup, slow game, but from a CFL fan perspective, I think that Winnipeg Blue Bombers defense is back. Obviously, still doing a lot of the heavy lifting over the offense. I believe Zach Collaros threw 3 interceptions, was able to end up throwing the most important touchdown to Kenny Lawler to win the game. But 3 interceptions, still really, I don't think the offense that we're used to seeing. But like I mentioned, that defense is flying around, playing a lot of good ball right now, and they were able to get another win, get into second place in the Western Division, and have a nice big matchup with Saskatchewan to, I would imagine, with first place implications on the line. Saturday, we had, unfortunately, the Ottawa Red Blacks beat the BC Lions. Thought I could will one into existence by picking the Lions, but they fall to a very good Ottawa Red Blacks team. Drew Brown balled once again, and their defense is very impressive. And the Lions just ultimately weren't able to get enough done to, they were in the ball game, but just weren't able to. I believe 2 for 5 in red zone opportunities. Not good enough when you're talking about an offense who's been playing very well as of late, and Drew Brown, a quarterback who's been putting up some good numbers as well. And Sunday, the Montreal Alouettes ended up pulling out one in the second half. I believe the Edmonton Elks did not score a point after, I believe it was 17-6 there at halftime. The 17-6, I kind of dozed off for a little bit in the second half, woke up. Montreal's winning. I should have expected, which I did, obviously picking them last week, but Montreal just continues to find a way. And Cody Fajardo's return back to the lineup, he did pretty well. I believe threw over 300 yards, had a decent completion percentage as well, and was able to get the victory. And the Montreal Alouettes continue to be the class of the CFL and in a league of their own. So that was the 3-minute drill, folks. I will go, I guess, to Blake, which we usually do. Blake, what is maybe something that jumps out to you from last week's matchups?
Yeah. So the Riders and Argonauts game. I mean, he's back in the league. We can talk about that at nauseum. Whatever. I think we've talked about it enough. Chad Kelly was okay. I don't think he was very good. I think the Riders really gave the Argos that game. They were up 13-0 in the fourth quarter, or pardon me, in the first quarter. And then, as you mentioned, Cole, that Marcus Sales interception, it was actually less than 10 seconds. I believe it was a 3-yard run from Frankie Hickson and then an incomplete pass. So after the Riders punted the ball away, they had only ran off 9 seconds off the clock. It went from 228 to 218, and that's just not good enough for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. We can debate whether or not Hartlahu missed it on purpose. I think that Ryan Dinwiddie kind of admitted that after the game. He said, go out there. If you make the kick, great. If you don't, boot the living heck out of it so that it goes out of the back of the end zone and they don't have a chance for a return. And either way, we're going to win the game.
I don't know how I feel about the whole miss on purpose. I get the sentiment of kick it as hard as you can so it goes out of the back of the end zone, but no kicker would ever say that they go out there and they have potentially missing on their mind. They want to make every kick. That's their, profession. So I definitely get the strategy, I guess, behind it, but missing on purpose. I saw a few people online talking about that as well. But Shane, what jumps out to you about last week's matchups?
Honestly, it was the Ottawa BC matchup because BC actually early in the game, first quarter, they were dominating. Like Nathan Rourke was able to kind of move the offense down the field, kind of at will. Like I think his first drive, he was 8 for 9 with 108 yards in the first quarter. Second quarter it started to fall off, and then the second half they went from a man defense to kind of more of a zone defense, and were able to consistently get stops. So, and that was a big game for both teams. The other games, they mattered. Obviously, Edmonton not being able to get away with a win for Montreal is the top of Toronto getting a win over Saskatchewan matters on both sides. I think given the situations both teams are in, how close that game was at the beginning to how it ended, kind of represents where the teams are at. The lack of confidence in BC is pretty obvious.
All right, Coach. What jumps out to you about last week's matchups?
We could talk about, for me, it was the Riders game. Being backed up in our end zone at least 2 to 3 times. Offense inconsistent. Yeah, we got Trevor back, but what good is it if we're not making plays and we're not getting ourselves into position? He threw a bad interception. He threw 2 bad interceptions out of the end zone. That's something that we can't do as offense. Now, we could talk about how did Dinwiddie give the kicker the Iggy to kick it out of the end zone? It don't matter. We lost because we didn't win the field position battle and we didn't take care of the ball. See, people don't want to talk about that. That's what I can't stand sometimes. Folks want to focus on one thing. No, our offense just didn't do their job. The defense didn't do their job fully. If you got to put a complete game together, we are not in a position this week now going into Labor Day. This is not the week to have one of those half-ass games where defense plays good and offense just lacks things. You know what I'm saying? It's got to be a full game. So learn from it. Get ready for this week.
All right.
Yeah,
Dang, Blake, you buying the whole store?
Sad to coach, the Rough Riders had 3 drives get into their opponent red zone. You're settling for long field goals, but you should be able to. I think all of Wallher's kicks the last 2 weeks, outside of his game-tying attempt 2 weeks ago, the ball was placed inside the opponent's 35-yard
line.
Right. They were all kind of I think the longest was 44 yards, which would have been a 36 with the ball going the opponent 36. So It's just the offense getting into the opponent's territory and just not being able to finish off any drives that they're gaining. And you're seeing it. There's no reason. Like Toronto was 1-5 in the red zone against the Rough Riders. Their defense played well enough to win. Their offense just has let them down the last 2 weeks.
I think one of our biggest issues is that offensively is our receivers aren't getting separation. I see a lot of times where they're getting locked, they're getting held down. They need to get separation in order to get so they can get to their spot, so they can get open. They get to the top of their route, there's still somebody on their hip. They're playing inside, they're playing outside, they're still with them, regardless of the coverage. God damn, Blake. Uh, but no, our receivers just gotta get separation. We gotta get Trevor in a position where he can actually have time in the pocket. He doesn't have to climb the ladder to go make a play. He can sit back there and do something. That's it. And it has to be consistent. It can't just be first drive we're okay, second drive we struggle, third drive we struggle. No, it has to be a point where at least hell, if we can get a field goal out of a drive, it's okay. Our offense has too many weapons where we can get some points on the board. We gotta attack. We got to attack.
Can we talk about how bad the PFF grades are? Like Trevor Harris played 2 games and he was the top performer of the month as a quarterback. Like he was the PFF top performer of the month, and it's like 2 games. My opinion should be playing all four. Like if you're playing like I don't know, it just bugs me. Seeing this guy who played 2 games named like PFF top performer at like a 90.1 grade when he's only played 2 games. Uh, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
All right, all right, boys. Should we get into it? I guess.
Let's get
Obviously,
to
little bit of breaking news here to start the show. Shane, you had the details. I believe you mentioned 1 year deal, 145K. I believe for the rest of the year is what you said.
Yeah, from Farhan, it looks like he made a new post. Yeah,
Yeah, so that's
we've
in.
come to terms. Uh, there's no price attached to it anymore, but on Farhan's original post, uh, it was 140K, 45K for the remainder of the year. Um, so I don't know if there's more details to come, and that's why he updated the post, but he's at least signed.
Yeah, this is an interesting one for me. 29 years old. Obviously, this is probably like your last. I feel like obviously you mentioned the 1 year deal, but I would think, you know, even if you come back and perform, like I thought he would maybe get picked up on a practice roster at least. Obviously, he got waived by the Detroit Lions, and I thought the Lions would probably get him back on their PR, but they obviously didn't. And now coming back, I feel like you're kind of like this is kind of 29 uh, March, so he'll be 30 going into next season. I'm interested. I thought obviously he had the one game, but he was pretty quiet after that. So I'd like to know how maybe some people that were following and watching along through the Lions camp thought that maybe he had a realistic opportunity the whole time, or maybe it was just from the few highlights that we've seen up here in Canada, we thought maybe a little bit more higher of him than what he was maybe performing. So I guess Shane, what are your thoughts, man? Just to kind of maybe get to jump around here.
I think age plays a factor. Unfortunately, like you're 29, he probably wasn't going to be a starter. You probably have guys who are like 23 who showed just as much as he probably did during his time in camp, and you're going to want to have those 22, 23, 24 year olds on your roster over a 29-year old, especially if it's a depth player. Um, I mean, if you look at it from his perspective, why would you want? Again, you're 25. Are you going to want to hang around practice squad for practice squad, or would you want to come back up here and actually be, you know, commit to being a CFL? Now he could go down as a CFL Hall of Famer if he were to continue to produce as what he showed last year based off his numbers. So I think it's just kind of one of those things where, could he hang around on a practice squad for another year? Sure, but the reality is at 30 years old, if you're on the practice squad, you're not likely to get a chance to make an active roster. So up here, he can probably play until he's like 37. They have Billy Jefferson. I mean, Sean Lemon up until recently. Justin Hughes. They all had long careers post 30. So his playing days aren't over, but unfortunately, he's on the wrong side of 27 for an NFL team to be willing to take a chance. But side note, managing Ginobili, or no, not Ginobili, the old lineman that they drafted out of UBC. Um, he made their 30. He made their 53-man roster.
Giovanni Manning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He made it. They made the 53-man roster. So kind of a bittersweet moment as a Canadian football fan.
Yeah, and obviously his teammate at UBC, Theo, just made the practice squad for the Chicago Bears, which is pretty cool too. But Coach, obviously, you're wondering where the hell the money's coming from. But what are your thoughts about Matthew Betts coming back to the CFL and with BC?
Well,
Wait, the
funny
salary
thing.
cap doesn't matter.
I told him it's like a credit card, baby. You just we'll worry about the payments later.
Hey! I should have asked him. He, your guys' owner, he just followed me on Instagram, so I should have just reached out to him and be like, where the fuck this come from? But
Yeah, where's
no,
my money?
shit, where's my goddamn money at? I ain't even a BC Lions fan, but the shit I be doing for them, goddamn. But no, I think it's a good thing Matthew Betts is coming back. I think Matthew had his big breakout season when it was meant to happen. I think with him being on the, as Shane said, the wrong side of 27, it happened when it happened. He's gonna have another 10 years. He's about to enter his prime, and hats off to him. Hope they have. I think he's gonna be a boost to that D line. I like to see Matthew and the Ooses do their thing on the front line because I love Sione and I love the other Oos, man. That's just too much fun. If they can put Matthew out there with them, boy, there's gonna be some issues out there, man. I tell you what. But there's still some holes in that defense. But let's not get too crazy. But that front line, they'll be okay.
Like
Definitely,
the entire secondary.
Yeah.
I think man, I was screaming a little bit for the pass rush, man. Drew Brown was fucking sitting back there, and there was nobody even close to him. So I hope obviously we've seen Nathan kind of struggle in his return back. So I'm hoping Matthew can kind of transition a little bit smoother and a little bit faster because we need a kickstart and a new we need a new I guess not a new face, but we need a kick in the pants defensively, man, to kind of get us going. It was unfortunate that they started the first half with 3 turnovers and then they had the 3 turnovers and couldn't do anything else after that. I mean,
Yeah.
just I guess to kind of get back more on the news, Blake, what are your thoughts on the whole ordeal?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Lions can't get any worse per se, and I hate saying that as a Lions fan, but like I think they can't get any worse defensively right now than what they currently are. So it can only really help them. And like we're joking about it, but in all seriousness, Cole, like the salary cap in the CFL doesn't mean jack, you know what? Like it means the Lions will lose a draft pick. Big frickin' deal. If this is what it takes to win a Grey Cup, and the Lions have said this time and time and time again this year, right when you and I were up there in training camp, the Lions made it very clear to basically, for lack of a better word, lesser known media people, I will put it that way, that like it was Grey Cup or bust. And right now, they're busting. They're not a Grey Cup team right now, plain and simple. So Matthew Betts coming back can only help this Lions team, and I don't think there's a way where it hurts you at all.
No, I agree. I agree. Well said, Blake. I'm interested to see. Obviously, he's not going to play this weekend. I would think, probably get to Touchdown Pacific this weekend, be able to practice next week, and hopefully be into the lineup. But like I said, we need to get help and reinforcement. So hopefully he's able to get back into the lineup, as well as maybe Pete Robertson as well. And hopefully, it starts up front. If you're able to get to the pass rusher, slow down the run, I think that just helps out your back end even more, your linebackers as well. So hopefully this is a added boost down the stretch. But I guess a few other no's. What do you want to say, Shane?
I'm saying I wouldn't be shocked if I'm sorry. He's a D lineman. Like unlike quarterbacks that need more reps with the receivers, D linemen should be plug and play. This is no different than signing someone off of another team's practice squad. If he can be there and be at practice tomorrow, sure it's short week, but like I wouldn't be shocked if he's playing. Maybe not starting, but as a D lineman, it's kind of plug and play. They should be able to just if he wants it, he should be able to play on Sunday.
I agree.
I would think the organization's probably a little trigger shy though after what just happened with Nathan. But I hear what you're saying about plug and play. He knows the defense as well. But what just happened to Nathan? I don't know if they really want to go through that whole situation again.
I mean, that's a different conversation. I think if you're asked that's like, hey, are you good to play Saturday? I mean, it's the same defense he had last year. There should be
it's the same offense. But we're doing the same thing with Nathan Rourke.
That's a good and a bad thing.
I mean, Nathan Rourke, he's supposed to regain that chemistry with his receivers.
Totally
different than a D-line.
I think it's just it's probably a tough. It's probably going to be a tough decision because like this is a must win. Like Blake said a couple weeks. Blake said it a couple weeks ago. I don't think it's going to happen, but he said that if they lose 7 in a row, touchdown Pacific, he thinks Coach Campbell is going to get fired. I think, like I said, this is a must win. So maybe that's in the back of their head where maybe they feel a little bit of pressure and they think that Matthew needs to play regardless of when he gets in or if he feels comfortable. I would think he's going to say he's comfortable because I would think the competitor in him would say that, but. I'm curious to know what goes on behind closed doors in the next 48 hours to hear some of those decisions that are probably going to be made because like you said I think he would probably be able to get to Victoria by tomorrow, practice Thursday, walk through Friday, and then who knows. So it'll be interesting. I would say that probably they lean towards no just because I think they'll be a little trigger shy in the back of their minds, but interesting thought for sure. To see what happens. And I believe depth charts don't have to be out till Friday. So we'll see. That'll be one to keep an eye on for sure. So as well in that Ottawa BC game, just to stay with a little bit of news here. Obviously, receiver Jalen Acklin was cleared and kind of healthy and was able to return home, I believe, the next morning or somewhere in the middle of the night. So just very scary incident. And obviously Stanley Bryan as well in the Winnipeg game. Was good to hear that he was okay after that. Looked like just a little bit of dehydration, but just some scary injuries in the CFL the last few weeks with Luther Akinavanu as well. But just wishing all those guys well. Jalen, obviously a fan favorite, not only in Ottawa, but I feel like in the CFL, a lot of people rooting for Jalen, and he was getting some good thoughts and prayers on social media afterwards. So just wishing those guys well, and definitely scary situations for the both of them. So other news and notes before we kind of get into a bigger preview for Labor Day. Obviously, the suspension for Sean Lemon is continuing with his gambling incident. So looks like Montreal will probably be without his services for the rest of the year. But I feel like Montreal doesn't need an added pass rusher. I think that was a very much of a luxury. But I know people were quite boisterous on the situation with Chad Kelly returning and Sean Lemon not being able to because of the gambling situation. So other than that, boys, any other news and notes that maybe come to mind for you guys before we kind of get into Labor Day?
Austin Mack coming back, not just coming back, signing a 4-year extension through 2028 with the Alouettes.
And how much was the contract, Shane? Did you see?
I don't think they've released the dollar amount. But if I
would think he'll be like the highest paid receiver in the CFL.
Probably. All I know is that there's no guaranteed money in his last year. But still, like this is a massive, like positive contract for the CFL. Based off of like a non-quarterback signing for 4 years, so being locked up in Montreal till 2028 is wild.
Yeah, I don't know how. Usually, we're used to seeing the 2-year deals and stuff like that, and 4 years is a lengthy commitment. So good for the CFL, and I would think just a trailblazer in Austin Mack, probably opening up opportunities for other receivers once their time comes. Hopefully, other positions as well. And as Blake mentioned, with the kind of the salary cap obviously the CFL is a softer salary cap compared to other leagues, as well as we're seeing some of these, strategies that we've seen kind of in the NFL salary cap with the marketing money and stuff like that, where they're able to, kick you guys or kick, the players an extra, 300K for marketing purposes, but it kind of go hand in hand with the salary cap situation. I don't know all the whole details. I'm sure Shane knows a little bit more, but
Yeah,
going to be interesting stuff.
uh, the marketing stuff doesn't count towards the cap. So like you
Oh, it
could
does.
sign someone to like 125K contract and then give them a 200K marketing pay, and they're only on the hook for 125K.
Sorry, yes, I worded it incorrectly, but thank you for clarifying it, Shane. But just a cool situation for the CFL, and hopefully this continues for the players because they can get a little bit long term security stuff like that, and get paid for the good stuff they put on the field. So, boys, any other news and notes before we get into the Labor Day?
I'm just trying to see if there's anything about the money. It doesn't. For massive, no.
The only other note that I can think of, Cole, is that VA has returned to practice. He hasn't had a full practice. He's been limited, and I believe it's been already ruled that he will back up Nathan this week instead of just dress as the emergency third string quarterback.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get into
Wow.
that maybe a little bit.
Wow. Just wow.
Well, Coach, go ahead. Ottawa, BC's first. Let's hear it. Wow.
So let me get this straight. Bruh loses his job, even though he was hurt. I get that. Dude comes back in, comes to the league, drops 2 bombs, and then Vernon has to be the third string quarterback.
No.
I'm not good.
That's not really the case. Like Vernon, Coach Campbell has said a few times now that Vernon's not 100% yet, and
Okay.
when he is 100%, they most likely will use a 2 quarterback system.
Well, that ain't work for Hamilton. So what the hell is going to be different with this? That ain't work for Hamilton when they had Orlando Steinhauer as coach. How often does a 2 quarterback system really work?
It don't
There,
work. That
exactly. So what? I feel like Rick Campbell is working his way out of his job. You understand what I'm saying? Like he's throwing everything at the wall but the kitchen sink right now. All this hype. This is probably the worst hyped up season I've seen in a while. And I think everybody hyped it up as Grey Cup or bust, and the pressure is starting to get to them. That's what I'm seeing. This is not the BC Lions we're used to seeing. It's not dominant wins. We're just scratching and we're just holding on, hoping that we can actually get a victory. Why am I saying we? They are holding on for dear life, and they're playing with their heels in the ground. I would not be surprised if Rick Campbell gets fired if they lose.
You know, Chris
I personally
Ferguson
don't think
has
so.
like 3 winning seasons in the CFL.
I
What's
called
the
it
other
to
one?
start the season. Blake knows that. I called it afterwards the season. I think they're kind of too entrenched in that organization with Neil McAvoy and stuff like that to do it mid-season, even with the 7-game losing streak. I know Blake called it a few weeks ago. Um, you know, personally, I know Shane's also said it as well. He's never been the biggest fan of Coach Campbell as well. What do you got, Shane? A little bit of news?
So sorry, just to interrupt again. Going back to our bets discussion, Farhan posted about 12 minutes ago. He is expecting bets to be in uniform Saturday versus Ottawa.
There you go.
Wow, interesting.
Why
Should be
waste it?
hopefully an added bonus, hopefully. But to get back to what we were on, Coach Campbell, I've never been the biggest fan. Shane wasn't. I know as well. He's kind of voiced a few opinions of preparing his team off bye week, stuff like that. Coming into the season, I know me and Blake shared some of our hot takes. That was one of mine. Where I think this is kind of where you've kind of done everything with this group, and you've done you've not been able to reach the mountaintop. So I feel like, you know, one or two of the quarterbacks are locked into your franchise guy, whoever it may be. You have a few pieces on offense to build around. You would hope that you have some pieces on defense that you can keep and kind of be some leaders after, you know, Gary Peters, CJ Lee kind of move on. But I think the easiest is the to move Rick Campbell out and to go with either, you know, whoever it may be, Ryan Phillips. I think because he's been BC Lion lifer, he knows that organization. He can really implement some of the new foundation and kind of carry on the old tradition. But I also wouldn't be opposed to, you know, Jordan Maximic stepping into a head coach position as well. So I kind of called it as well, but I would be curious to know if that has been, you know, because Amar Doman, I would think, is not happy right now as the owner of the BC Lions with, you know, what he's forked out, what he's, you know, done for the organization for the last few years, handing out some of these contracts as well, putting a lot of his money on the line. I would think he's probably not impressed and wanting to be in a lot of better position than he is than his team is right now. So does it take maybe Amar Doman stepping in to, you know, be like, you know, this is too far. We've gone too far, and this is not the results that we should be getting here. Because obviously, at the beginning of the season, I kind of like offensively, I guess we were flying high. Defensively is another story. Um, but I'd be curious to know if that's had any if there's been any conversations in the building in terms of, you know, Neil McAvoy and or Coach Campbell being, you know, maybe on the hook. Blake, what do you think?
I don't think that Amar is the type of owner that would kind of step in and say, "Hey, Neil, like this needs to be done now." I think he kind of leaves the football operations to the football operations people, and he's, for lack of a better term, the money. That's what he is. Like he's the guy that puts in the money. He's the guy that's the public face as the owner and kind of goes out and kisses babies, if you will, and stuff like that. And but I really don't see him as the type of guys going to Neil and being like, "Look, enough is enough. Like we're not winning. Campbell needs to go."
Yeah,
I,
Yeah,
it's- I think this is the time for him to be able to step in and say, "What we doing? Back to
see
back
what and
years."
why I think he's safe is he just signed an extension, right? That's why I think it would take the owner coming in to step in and say, you know what, this is no longer happening, because they both, I believe, just signed extensions to kind of tie their time together in BC. So that's why I don't even think Neil McAvoy would feel comfortable going to the owner. I think it has to come from Amar if this was a decision to be made. Maybe in the offseason, maybe Neil McAvoy or one of the other would throw one of the other under the bus. But I think in season it would have to come from the owner, because one of the other aren't going to want to step on each other's toes to be the first one to throw shots of, you know, he's the problem, not me, to save themselves, obviously. But I think it has to come from Amar. Maybe he's not that type of owner, but I would hope that, you know, his money's on the line, man. He's the one that, you know, pregame concerts, all this stuff that he's forking out money for, he's going to want to return in his investment. He's not getting that right now. So I'm curious to know if maybe he's feeling a little bit of the pressure. But Shane, I guess you're the only one that hasn't really weighed in. But I know you haven't been the biggest fan of Rick Campbell as well.
I mean, Rick Campbell is the person. He's really nice. He's probably one of the best, you know, coaches in the league in terms of fan interaction. When, you know, outside of practice, he'll sit and talk to fans. Like he's really good in that regard. Um, but I think what makes it harder for BC is that he's not just the coach, right?
He's
You're not just
co-GM.
you can't yeah he's co-GM. So you're not just firing your head coach. You're firing your co-GM. So I don't think they make a move, but I would be very surprised if they make a move um, to relieve him of his duties in season. I think we're going to see something like Hamilton did with Orlando Steinauer, where they moved him up into a front office role and then brought in Milanovic to be the head coach. I could see them being like, "Hey, we're gonna like let's move you into GM role full time, um, whatever the case may be. We'll take your head coach cap like away. We'll make you part of the execs full time. We'll bring a new head coach in." I would be very shocked if they fire him in season because of that. I think it's an off season move where they move him into an exec role, and then maybe bring in Phillips as a head coach. Maybe they look elsewhere. Um, but Do I think they should fire him as a coach? You had back-to-back 12 and 6 seasons. Sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles. You have one bad year. I don't know if one bad year takes away from the two really good years he's had. Um, but again, he's in his 10th season as a head coach. He's on pace for his sixth losing season. At some point, the track record speaks for itself.
You are what
You
your
are what
record is.
you are what your record is. Well said, Coach.
You
So
know,
let's
you know
get
how to make this. You know how to make this discussion moot. Win the game on Saturday. Like they're not gonna fire him if they win the game. So you just go win the game.
I mean, you have to do more than just win one game. I mean, that's the thing with Rick Campbell. Like, he basically has to win out. There's no way that like you have to win out or at least lose one game. You cannot afford to lose more than one game at this point. You're lucky that the West has been as bad as it has been. Like with how close it is,
Mm-hmm.
you could probably afford to lose like two games. But you don't want to. You want to run the table. You want to get that first. Winnipeg's right behind you. Like a loss here, like think about it in perspective, a loss to Ottawa, Montreal clinches the playoff spot because they won't there's no way they can play them so constantly. So they're like in perspective, yeah, you just need to win. Like they just need to focus on winning. If Rick Campbell wants to save his job, anyone wants to save their job. All they need to do is win at this point. Like winning is the name of the game. You want to save your job, you win. If you can't win, you're gonna lose your job.
Yep. Winning is the simplest way to solve all problems. So,
And to be
Shane,
fair,
I guess I'll just throw it back to you before we give our picks here. Maybe give your thoughts from Ottawa perspective. Obviously, coming off the victory of the first of the home and home series here, you were obviously as well as Blake at the game. So maybe just your thoughts from Ottawa's perspective before we give our picks.
yeah, I mean, the first half wasn't great. Um, Defense struggled. I think they played too much. They played a soft man, hard, like it was kind of a man zone. Linebacker was kind of floating a little bit um, in the first half, which allowed work to kind of pick them apart. Um, Offense kind of struggled early. They weren't hanging on to the ball occasionally. Um, Overall, though, it was a pretty good game up until midway through the third quarter. And then BC's defense kept giving out chunk plays. BC's offense kind of sputtered, and I think there's like two or three drops in a row on BC's offense that would have continued drives. Like it seems like they're not playing with any confidence in BC. Ottawa is. They're like, oh man, we can beat anyone. Doesn't matter if we're down 6 at half, 10 at half, we can come back and win. I think that was a difference maker personally. They believed in themselves, and when they came back, and they had they got that 2 touchdowns in the third quarter. You kind of saw BC struggle, and they're like, man, we're gonna really lose another game. We're gonna lose our fifth straight game. You started seeing the doubt kind of seek into it. Uh, so I mean, if you're a Red Sox fan, you're happy with the 7-2-1 chance to go 8-2-1 and kind of separate yourself in the East, hopefully, with Toronto kind of right on your tail too. But I don't know. There's definitely improvements that Ottawa needed to make. Bryce Carter is expected to be back, so that should help with the pass rush. Um, and then Vladek should be in. We'll see. I mean, he's on the sixth game, but he's been a full participant this week. Um, we'll see what happens with that. But still things to improve on. Wasn't the perfect game. Wasn't a full 60-minute game. But a win's a win, so I'm not going to sit here and be too critical of a win.
Win is a win. Do you guys want records? I realize I did not give our records last week. I'm going to blame it on Blake because he wasn't here, threw me off. But I might as well start with our records just to update everybody. Last week I went 2-2, making my record 26, 21, and 1. Shane led the week 3-1, taking his record to 22, 21, and 1. Blake continues to lead the overall series. He is 29, 18, and 1. He had himself a 1-3 week though, so a little bit of a tougher week. He shrugs it off. He'll say, "Oh, I was on the road traveling, all good." And then Coach had himself his best week of the since he's been joining us here. He was 2-2,
All
Coach,
right.
I thought you were gonna say he's
and
4-0.
he takes his total up to 4-15-1 on the
Oh, so he's
season.
really Saskatchewan
Yeah,
right
fuck you,
now. That's a
Blake.
Grey Cup. That's a Grey Cup record right there. So like, you're really embodying being a Rough Rider fan with that 4-15 record.
What'd you say? What'd you say, Shane?
You're matching the Rough Riders record in Grey Cups. They're like 4-15.
That's fine. Shoot, 20%. I'll take it.
I don't know,
So
man. 4
like I
wins and
said,
19 appearances. I would not be happy about that.
We got more. We
le-
got one more than y'all recently. That's fine. I'll take it.
like we've been saying, Blake, Shane, and I will be doing our little three picks, whatever we're doing at the end of the year, and then Coach and the rest of us will be keeping up from whenever Coach joined us. I believe it was maybe about 4 or 5 weeks ago now. So we'll add up the total from there, and we'll see who's the winner out of that as well. So let's get into it. Shane, I'll pass to you first. I'm guessing you got Ottawa, but any other thoughts besides that?
I mean, BC's defensive secondary has just been picked apart. Matthew Betts should help that. Hopefully, that is they got 2 grounded all last week. 0 sacks on the board for BC. So Betts should be a help. Uh, and I don't know. I feel bad for BC fans right now. The amount of hype that was in this season, and just watching teams kind of pick apart that defense, run apart that defense, has been has been a struggle. But hey, maybe Nathan Wood comes in, gets his first win back, touchdown Pacific, send the home fans happy, and maybe they run the table the rest of the way. But I can't pick BC right now. Um, I'm not even confident in BC putting up under 300 passing yards in the game right now. So I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be high scoring. I trust that offense to put points on the board. Um, it's not like Ottawa's secondary has been lights out either. They have their weaknesses. Guys are still getting up to speed with McGee and Dandridge. Uh, they're getting up to speed. Santos Knox is on the 6th game, so we'll see how Davion Taylor can step up into that middle linebacker role. Bryce Carter is expected to be back. We'll see, but if not, can Oneka and Maldine be enough to on the outside to keep work kind of contained again? Still a lot of questions on Ottawa's side. Ackland and Addison are out. Both, I think, are expected to land on the 6th game. Addison, I believe, broke his hand last
Oh,
week.
shit.
I'm not 100% on that, but I believe that's what it is. And then obviously Ackland with his head injury from that hit. So I think there's two new American receivers that are expected to start. I think I forgot to mention it, but Rashid Bailey is expected to sign with Ottawa's practice roster. Probably won't play in Saturday, but he would probably make his first Red Black start against the Argos the following week on the Saturday when they host the Argos. But that's another little tidbit, so that should help them. But yeah, the offense isn't quite there because again, you're missing Ackland, and both Ackland and Addison had really good games. I believe Addison had over 100 yards against BC before he went out. We're close to. I think he made it 83. I think it was Hardy that was over 100, and then Martiner had like 95. But overall, I think it's going to be a good game. I expect a high scoring game again.
No surprise, Shane has Ottawa. Blake, who do you got?
Do I have to answer this?
Yeah,
Oh man, I don't want you to fall off your chair, Cole, but at this point, I think I need to go with the Red Blacks. Like the Lions, there's just so many problems right now, and Nathan Rourke and Matthew Betts aren't gonna fix those overnight. We've seen it already with 2 games with Nathan Rourke. He was better. He was better against Ottawa. Like Shane can admit that he was better, but he still wasn't great. He wasn't the old Nathan. And it's the critics have already come out that, yeah, he was great in 2022, but he was great for 10 games, and then he got hurt. So what's to say that what's happening right now wouldn't have happened if he played a full season? Maybe teams would have adjusted to him. Like, and I believe he's thrown all 4 of those interceptions have been on those deep out routes that are about 10 yards longer than they are in the NFL. He has not adjusted to those out routes yet. Justin McInnis finally came back for the Lions last week. He was never injured. He was just invisible for about 4 weeks. He was finally over 100 yards last week. But has anyone seen Alex Holland? Like, he's still not Alex Holland. You even tweeted out the stat, Cole. The Lions have not had a touchdown from someone other than David Mackey from, what is it, July 24th or something like that? Like, that's
17 quarters.
insane. Yeah, that's absolutely insane that other than your short yardage fullback, you have not had a touchdown in over a month now. And I think with everything going on in Touchdown Pacific, all the distractions, I unfortunately think that the Lions do lose this game. And obviously, with Saskatchewan and Winnipeg playing each other later on in the week, their season might be hanging by a thread by the time the weekend is done.
Coach, who do you got?
Lule is not walking through that door. G-Roy is not walking through that door. And Wally Buono is not walking through that door unless he's coming to watch the game. I got the little engine that could. The Ottawa Red Blacks winning this one. Look here. Reason why? That was in the little time that I've been watching the Ottawa Red Blacks and doing my research on them. This might have been the best defensive game I've seen from a Bobby Dice defense in a while. The way that they schemed it up, the way they had Wakefield and Lorenzo Malden working, outstanding. I feel like they'll game plan around that, and with Nathan Rourke starting, force him to make throws that he's not accustomed to making. Get him out the pocket, but make him set up in a way that he's going to be uncomfortable. You have to make Nathan Rourke uncomfortable. You got to make him think. Make Nathan think for more than 5 seconds and you'll get a sack. That's just how I see it. Now, Drew Brown, I'm not saying Drew Brown is a world beater right now, but losing Addison, that's tough right there. But they're deep at their receiving core, so they'll be okay. I got Ottawa for the win.
All right, I guess I'm a lone horse on this one. Do I have confidence in my pick? No, but I will back the BC Lions because I think they are desperate ball club. Number one. Number two, I think it's hard to beat a team back to back, obviously, with the home and homes now with Ottawa. You'll be a little bit more prepared. And, I guess I might as well take the time. I'm not sure if Blake and I will be able to do the preview show this week. But, not taking anything away from Vernon Adams, but he obviously had a good start to the year. I will remind you guys that he had a good 5 games. Obviously, the Toronto game to start the year was not up to standards. Calgary, which we're going back to, the 17 quarters was his last full start where they had a dud in Calgary. They lost 25-24, and his last start was a shutout performance against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So, to use Blake's argument against him, let's say that, he had a good 5 games and he comes back. He's not guaranteed to pick up where he left off because it's an even shorter sample size. Now you'll say last year, he played a full year, which he played a fantastic year. I'm not taking anything away from him. But I think everyone's been very hard on Nathan coming back. Am I being a homer? Whatever you guys want to call me about, back in Kid Canada. No, I'm trying to be more realistic of a real approach from this instead of people, calling for controversies and stuff like that, which I think I saw Bobby put in here where Coach Campbell's shut this down multiple times about being, a 2 quarterback system. They're going to go with one starter, whoever it may be. If it's Nathan this week and they lose, I would think that, VA is probably going to get a look next week in Montreal because of the situation that they're going to be in. But that being said, this team is kind of imploding on itself more so than a quarterback, a D lineman coming back, whatever it may be. Like I mentioned last week, they had 3 turnovers in the first half defensively, right? Which we've been all, calling for. Shane even as well from a outside fan perspective, right? That they need to do more. They need to create turnovers when their offense isn't going, but they need to do a better job of getting their offense the ball opportunities, stuff like that, right? Which they did in the first half. And in the second half, it was the total opposite. Like I mentioned before, they were 2 of 5 in the red zone. The offense, like you said, Shane, they started the game very well. They ended up marching the ball down the field. David Mackey was able to score. And then complementary football has just not been their thing for the last 6 weeks. Whether it's, the defense is playing well. I'm not going to say that they're playing good because I know that's been also a talking point on this show as well. But when they put together quarters, stretches, their offense disappears. When their offense put together stretches like they did in the first half, their defense disappears. So this team's problems are much bigger than a quarterback coming back, a quarterback being put in, a defensive lineman. This is a big time team problem. So I will get back to my point. Am I confident in this pick? Absolutely not. But I'm going to back the BC Lions because I think this is a bit more desperate ball club. I think if you lose, the season's over at that point. You're not coming out of a seven game losing streak because maybe you win a few games here and there. Maybe you end up getting in the playoffs, but you know the story of that game, going to Winnipeg, going to Saskatchewan in the playoffs. I don't like your chances there. So, like Shane said, the West kind of sucking has helped us stay in contention for first place. But if you lose any more games, I think down the stretch here, you're going to lose all opportunities at hosting the number 1 seed. And if you fall into 2 and 3, anything can happen, but I really feel like we've seen this story before the last 2 years now of this team going on the road, not being built in that type of way of in the elements, stuff like that. And I think they lose again. So I think this is a must-win game where you need to put your nuts on the table. And we saw that a little bit last week with them going forward on 4th down, stuff like that. You can feel the desperate teams. And BC's playing like it right now, where they know they need to, score more points and stuff like that. So I'm hoping, I guess I'm not thinking, I'm hoping that they put together a game here and they can get a win. So I will go out on a limb here and I will take the BC Lions alone this week, Blake. I'm shocked because I feel like you're admitting the BC Lions their season is over basically with the loss, which I think it is. But let's get into
It's gonna be
the what's Shane?
it's gonna be hard for BC if they lose. Like they have 2 games against Montreal left. They have
I think the only thing that helps them is
they play
the amount of
Calgary, they
Western
play
teams
Toronto.
playing each other though,
Yeah,
because like
but like you're playing most of their games are like they have a game against Ottawa this week. They play Montreal next week. Then they play Toronto the following week. Then they're on a bye, and then they play Hamilton. Then it's Calgary, Saskatchewan, Montreal, bye. So you need to go probably 4-2 over or 5-2 over the remaining 7 games. Like you could probably like if you can win against Montreal, that's great. But you have to beat Calgary, you have to beat Saskatchewan, you have to beat Hamilton. Like those are your 3 wins, right? Like those are your 3. Like yeah, we need to win those games. So you have to beat one of Ottawa and Toronto to get you to 4, and then you want to win at least one more. You want to end at 5 wins. If you do that, you
I
probably end up winning you probably end up first in the West if you can get five wins.
I think the worst part is like how shitty the West has played. So it feels like it doesn't feel as worse as it is. I guess feels when you look at the standings. But that's why I feel like 2 or 3 is a possibility with a loss because of how Saskatchewan, and Winnipeg will play each other, Edmonton and Calgary play each other, and then those 4 teams play each other. I believe another single time as well. So there will be losses for at least one Western opponent in a lot of those games. But like I said, I just don't feel like I don't know, it's confident in being a 2-3, maybe winning a West semifinal, but going on the road for a Western final as well. So will we be alive with a loss? Yes, we'll not be mathematically eliminated, but I think in the grand scheme of things of winning a Grey Cup, I think that's where you write the season off with a loss here because maybe you make the playoffs, but I just don't think you're able to, generate or flip the switch, I guess, if you will, come playoff time and really change who you are because this is kind
I
of who
think
they proved
Montreal's proven that
down.
you can't just write off any season, right? Like Montreal last year showed that like, hey, you get hot at the right time. We've seen it in hockey before. We've seen it in basketball. We've seen it in the NFL. You get hot at the right time. All you need to do is win 3 games. Any
Yep.
team, any given night can win 3 games in a row. I think for BC though, you want to host at least the West semis. Ideally, you host the West finals. But if you can at least host the West semis and then travel for the West finals, you put yourself in a pretty good position to go and get that home Grey Cup. Like Winnipeg coming
Yeah,
in, they've
no,
won 3 in a row on the road when they won their first. So like I think saying that the season or Grey Cup is over, I think is a little dramatic personally. Uh, I agree that it makes it a lot harder with a loss, but we've seen this team perform at a very high level, and if they can get hot at the right time, they can beat anyone at any given week.
I agree. I agree with everything you're saying. I just think my hopes would be it'd be a 70-30 the opposite, where I think there's 70% chance they're not winning and 30% winning, where I think, if they win, it can start to climb towards, 70% winning the Grey Cup again, 30% losing. I agree. Just get in and get hot and you can do some crazy stuff, but I don't know. I feel like we've seen this before, so I think you got to win and kind of go 5-1. Maybe even win out as well to get that confidence back and win out. So let's get to Saskatchewan, Winnipeg. Coach, what are your thoughts and who you picking?
Who the hell you think I'm gonna pick? You all know who I'm gonna pick. I'm picking the Riders. We gonna win. We already got bad blood with them from the last time we played with them with that late hit from Adam Big Hill. I know that it wasn't intentional. I've spoken with Adam. It was a misunderstanding. But for us right now, this is a game to turn things around. We got to get on a hot streak. We got to get these next few games. I think the next 4 games are going to be important for us, ending the month of September and starting September on a high and ending September on a high. Uh, we just got to find some way to get the offense clicking. And what better way than to do it against Winnipeg? That's a momentum shifter for us. And then we got to see them next week too in Winnipeg. I'm digging our chances.
All right, Blake, who do you got?
I am going to ride with Coach Phil, and I am also going to take the Riders. I feel like you could just clip this and play it every week when we ask about who's going to win X team against the Bombers. Their offense is not good. They're winning games with defense and special teams. They won last week's game. Yeah, they drove down the field against a crappy Hamilton team to score the game-winning touchdown with 20 seconds left. But their other touchdown was on a special teams play. Zach Collaros, before that drive, had 3 picks. His interception to touchdown ratio this year is 6 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Last time I checked, that was pretty bad. I don't think the Bombers are good. I think the Riders are a better team, like the Lions, than they've shown in the past 7 games. And the other stat that I want to throw at you guys, before 2018, when New Mosaic started, the Riders were 18 of 24. They had won the Labor Day games. And since New Mosaic has opened, I believe they're 3-2. So that Labor Day game, for whatever reason, doesn't matter if the Bombers are good, the Riders are bad, the Riders are good, the Bombers are bad, or if they're both good or if they're both bad. It seems like that Labor Day game, the Riders managed to come out on top more times than not.
Shane, who you got?
I'm taking the Bombers.
This guy.
I'm gonna go here and say I'm taking the Bombers. I don't trust Trevor Harris to put enough scoring drives together against that secondary. Like that secondary is nasty. Arguably the best secondary in the league. Uh, I don't see it happening. Like he put up 190 yards against the Argonauts. Uh, put up 300 and some against the Alouettes, but only had 1 touchdown to show for it, or 2 touchdowns to show for it, but only had 3 drives or 2 drives to get to the red zone. Like I don't know. I feel like the secondary is too good for the passing attack that Trevor Harris has. So I think Winnipeg. I get it. Claris hasn't been great, but it's not like Saskatchewan has that great of a run defense. They'll just hit like Oliveira has been fronting the load of that offense. I think it's going to continue this week. I think it's going to be a tightly contested game. I think it's probably going to be under 50 points total. But I don't trust Trevor Harris to score touchdowns when they need to score touchdowns, and they'll be settling for more field goals.
Yeah, well said, Shane. I got Winnipeg as well. I love how much of a hater Blake is. I'm just gonna full call him a Winnipeg Blue Bombers hater because that's what he is. I agree though. You are right. Zach Lowe's hasn't played good this year, but they get it done when it matters, man. They lead game-winning drives. They get Castillo in field goal range, and like Shane just said,
A win is a
Brady
win.
Oliveira is somewhat back. He has 800 rushing yards again. He's going to be over 1,000. He'll be the straw that stirs that offense. As long as Zach Laros doesn't throw picks in fourth quarters, third quarters, they're going to be in games because of that defense. Like I just said, Willie's starting to get going. Adams obviously hurt now, but that secondary, as Shane mentioned, Tyrell Ford has been playing super well as of late, getting a lot of interceptions. Coach also mentioned it himself watching the Riders, seeing that receiving core not getting a lot of separation. Trevor Harris, I believe, was under 200 yards last week as well. So
Like these are
I'm
top
gonna go with the Bombers. These games are
You
always
can,
like Blake said. What's up, Blake?
no, I was just gonna say, Cole, you can call me a hater all you want, but if
I know
I'm
you're proud
right,
of it.
no. But if I'm right, I'm right. I like maybe it is me hating on them. I don't think they're a good team. Plain and simple.
okay, but like statistically, points wise, points against wise, like two of the top five, like two of the top three, top four teams in fewest amount of points against us. The Winnipeg is averaging 20 points against us. They're averaging basically 19.5 offensive points a game. Saskatchewan's at 24.5 points against. So like these are two defenses that make it hard for offenses to score consistently this year. Again, I think it's going to come down on who can run the ball better. Because like it's not like Saskatchewan doesn't have dogs on that team either. I believe Saskatchewan still, yeah, like Saskatchewan leads the team in like leads the league in interceptions, also leads the league in fumbles, like forced fumbles or fumble recoveries. Um, so like they're plus 16 in turnover ratio. So Saskatchewan's defense has some dogs on it. That'll make Claros and Oliveira's job much harder. But the same is on Winnipeg's side, where it's going to be a dogfight for Trevor Harris and Frankie Hickinson to get yards and get production. So I think at this point it comes down to your kicker, who do you trust. At the end of the day, like who do you trust more? Castillo going 6 for 6 or Brett Lawler going 6 for 6?
Castillo.
That in my mind, like that in my opinion, that's the difference maker in this game. Is if if Winnipeg can do enough to get into field goal range, and that defense could force Saskatchewan to field goals and become a field goal battle, I think it still just comes out on top.
Yeah, I agree with Shane. I think it'll probably be under 50 points, a defensive battle. But like Blake also mentioned about it doesn't matter any given year. This game's always close. Whoever's bad, usually teams show up to this matchup and play a nice, good game. So I'm excited to watch this one on Sunday after we're recovering from Touchdown Pacific, hopefully with a nice big win. And hopefully it's a nice game to watch on Sunday. That's everybody's pick, right? Two Winnipegs, two Saskatchewans. Let's go to Toronto and Hamilton, which kicks off Monday morning. I was actually excited to see 11:30, Blake. I'm going to sleep in Monday morning, wake up, and have some CFL football. 11:30, that is Pacific time. I don't know what. I guess that's 2:30 Eastern, whatever for Shane. But Shane, who do you got between Toronto and Hamilton?
So I don't really much. I don't think anyone. I think we're all kind of on the same boat. Uh, Toronto, like Hamilton's just soccer, right? Like at this point, Jay Butler, Cody White, John Rita, along with the young guys, so this team's absolute garbage. Like if Butler's not playing, like on Monday, I don't know what the hell they're doing with this guy, but at this point, there's no way you can pick Hamilton in a serious manner. Like if you're trying to like, oh, my underdog, like this is my upset, sure, pick Hamilton. But in reality, like this should be a clean sweep.
Blake, who do you got, buddy?
This is gonna. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just messing with you, Shane. I have Toronto too. Like Hamilton is just they're like we talk about it almost every week. Power rankings are BS, but Like in the CFL, the power rankings are Montreal 1, Hamilton 9, and everybody else. Like, that's what it is. Like, Hamilton is just, I don't know what they're doing anymore. Like, seriously, get James Butler out of that city. I feel bad for the man. Same with Bo Levi Mitchell. Like, I realize they're not going to do it now with Taylor Powell on the 6th game. But, like, there's another name that kind of a veteran that's escaping me that's been kind of being done dirty by Hamilton. I truly don't know what they're doing. Toronto wins this game, and I don't think it's going to be that close. Sorry, what was the name, Shane? Yeah.
Like, also, talking about someone who's going to upgrade a secondary, he should be all over him. Like, I'm going to be straight up. Like, there's only one team that makes sense for him to go to, and it's BC, and I would love to see him in orange and black. Or black and orange, technically. But, yeah, there are a lot of, like, even, like, sales, and, like, there's a couple of veterans that I feel like they've done questionable things in respect-wise.
All right, Coach, who do you got?
I want to preface my first thing by saying, fuck Chad Kelly all day, every day. And that's on God. But why would I pick Hamilton?
Chris Jones, Coach.
The fuck that got to do with anything? I'm going with Toronto. I think Toronto's going to overpower them. That line is going to do dirty work against that D-line. I'm excited to see it. I hope Chad Kelly tears his Achilles and Dean Carey goes over 100 yards.
Well said. Well said. I got Hamilton. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I have Toronto to make it a clean sweep. I would not dare pick Hamilton. Let's move on. There's not much to be said. Hamilton sucks, like Blake said. Montreal 1, Hamilton 9, everybody else. Hamilton has been, I think, the clear obvious team, even though they had a little bit of a stretch there, 2 games back to back. But I think they're clearly the worst team in the CFL. No idea what they're doing. They're wasting the end of Bo Levi Mitchell's career, which is an absolute travesty because he's leading the CFL in passing yards and touchdowns, and Hamilton absolutely sucks. And they can't find ways to win games. I just think this will be another one. This is kind of similar. I know the rivalry is big to Saskatchewan, Winnipeg of teams. It's sometimes not mattering if teams suck or not. It's just a hard fought game. I think this matters that Hamilton sucks and Toronto's just a better team. So I think Toronto's going to take this and be the better
Hamilton
team.
did already beat Toronto this year too.
Yeah, so I got Toronto to make it a clean sweep on the weekend. We have the last one, the Battle of Alberta. No matter what sport it is, hockey, football, always a big rivalry. Who do you guys got between Edmonton, Calgary? Blake, I'll go to you first.
Oh, I'm so glad you went to me, Cole, first, because I get to do the, for the second time tonight, I get to do the breaking news. Trey Ford is going to start this game for the Edmonton Elks. That's I don't know if that's really common knowledge yet. I know the Elks haven't practiced yet, but I do have it on official word from some of the insiders with the
inside
Elks.
Sources.
Yeah, inside sources, including someone that is very, very, very close to Trey Ford. If you guys get what I mean. So Trey Ford is going to start for the Elks. It's pretty simple. The Elks, I mean, they almost won last week with MBT. Like, they had 2 drives at the end of that game. And again, they didn't do it again this week. I know that you can't blame one player. But again, in my opinion, Boris Beatty cost them that game. He kicked a field goal. He attempted to kick a field goal with about 8 minutes left. He missed it. It would have made it a 1-point game at the time. That forced the Elks to twice in the final 3 minutes go for it, or go for the touchdown, including the last drive in the final 10 seconds. And again, twice they were thwarted by the Alouettes. But on the day, I think obviously you can't say the Elks were the better team because they didn't win, but I think they were as close to being the better team without actually getting a W. Again, we talk about this all the time too. I don't have confidence in Jake Mayer. Coach, I know you do, but I just don't have confidence in him. Edmonton wins this game.
What you talking about Coach's cousin like that for?
Very
Coach,
good.
who you got?
As
Come on,
much
say it, Coach.
as much as I would love to go with my cousin, I'm sticking with black folk. I'm going with the Edmonton Elks, baby. I got stick.
Oh,
I
right, I
got stick.
forgot.
I got stick with black people.
I forgot. My bad, I
No,
forgot.
I think it's gonna be. It's always fun reacting to Edmonton and Calgary games. Them two going at it is phenomenal work. I love watching it. God damn, Blake. Thank you.
Mute yourself.
Shit. No, it's fun watching those two go at it. As much as I would like to pick Jake Mayer and Calgary, not this week. I think that secondary is going to cause issues for Jake. They're gonna hit Jake. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm gonna watch my cousin get bludgeoned a little bit, but it's gonna be fun. I'm gonna go with Edmonton for black people.
Love it. Shane, who do you got?
Oh, I got Edmonton. I just like give me Trey Ford. Um, I know that Blake mentioned it, but yeah, Trey Ford is. I know they mentioned it at the end of the game against Montreal, but I know that they're unless something happens this week in practice because they haven't practiced yet. I think their first practice is tomorrow. The expectation is that he's going to start unless there's a setback. But I can't pick Calgary. I can't do it. I want to say anti Calgary for the rest of the year, but like I'm anti Jake Mayer. I just like I can't pick him. I can't cheer for him. I just can't see Calgary winning with him. So any team they play, I'm picking the opposite. I just don't think he can get it done. They have issues on defense. They have other issues. It's not just Jake Mayer, but when you're a quarterback, you front the load. It's like anyone. It's the same thing with Trevor Harris. We talked about Zach Caleros. I just don't think Mayer can. Like I think they missed the playoffs. I think at this point in time, with how every other team is going, I think Calgary can easily falls out of the playoff spot within the next 2 weeks. I think they're going to lose both games to Edmonton. They're going to fall out. BC is going to get back on track. Winnipeg is going to be in there. Saskatchewan's going to be in there. And it's going to be between those three teams the rest of the way. I just
Just gonna make it more
I
muddier.
have no I have no faith in Calgary. None. So Edmonton this week, Edmonton next week, and anyone against Calgary the rest of the year.
Do it, Cole.
Let
Make it a clean sweep for the last two
Come on,
games.
Cole. Don't be that dude.
we'll,
Sweep,
we'll,
yes, sir.
we'll make it a
You're a
clean
Canucks
sweep.
fan. You should know that.
Like the three previous matchups before, fellas. I'm sure you guys. This game will be probably pretty close, right? The rivalry that's built between them this weekend that's been built up. Jake Mayer already tweeted about this being the best weekend of the regular season, so I would imagine they're going to be fired up, ready to play good. But I think Edmonton, man, if they could only pull out a few victories in the beginning of the year, man, they could be in first place right
If
now, which is
we
crazy
stay
to think
both in
about.
trash,
And I think this is their time to kind of get into playoff contentions, and who knows what happens. Make some noise down the stretch, and the West is wide open for them to get into a playoff spot. And I'm going to pick them to win here. Would love to see the Elks do good. Um, Canadian quarterback, obviously, a few guys that friends on the squad, and just rooting for that fan base, man. I feel like they've been through a lot, and obviously Blake knows as well with some of the friends that we've made and stuff like that. Just really good people in that fan base, and they deserve to see some wins and stuff like that. So I'm kind of rooting for Edmonton. I know I've somewhat been a bandwagon jumper on and off the last few years, but I think I've had a right to jump off just as much as I've jumped on the bandwagon, considering what's gone on. I'm going to jump on for now, and hopefully Edmonton's able to get a win and hopefully make some noise, like I said, down the stretch, because they're an exciting team to watch, and I think they got a lot of talent, especially defensively has not been talked about. I know coach has been talking about it, but I think from a national perspective, they don't get talked about a lot about some of the playmakers they have on that side of the ball. Niles Morgan, I believe, still leading the league in CFL sacks or CFL tackle, sorry. And I think they have some young guys that they could, hopefully develop into some stars in the CFL. So we'll make it a clean sweep. Toronto, Edmonton to end the picks. Boys,
Wait.
first of all,
There's one more thing before we get Coach and Shane out of here that I want to mention. So
yep,
for anyone that hasn't been on my Twitter feed recently, I know it was buried kind of throughout my road trip last week. But I did tweet out that I am trying to fundraise some money for the CFL Fans Fight Cancer event that is happening the Saturday before Grey Cup. So it's the day before the Grey Cup. And I put it out on my Twitter page. So I will have to follow through. But whichever fan base raises the most money going into Touchdown Pacific this upcoming Saturday, I will wear that team's colors and that team's logo to Touchdown Pacific this week.
I hope it's Hamilton.
It's not right now. Right now, the Riders are leading, but
Of course.
Rider Nation. All right. Well, first of all, donate to Blake's cause. Blake would love to wear some Rider green, as he already is. I can see a little Edmonton Elks as well. But fellas, before we get you out of here, enjoy the weekend, enjoy some football. And Shane, anything to let the people know before you get out of here that they can look forward to this weekend?
No, I mean, U Sports is up and running this weekend. Canada West makes their starts up. So if you already haven't checked it out, continue to check it out. Yeah, U Sports, CGFL in full swing. I don't know, and hockey's around the corner.
Awesome. And as always, Shane's social media as well as the 13th Man socials are in the description below. So, Shane, enjoy the weekend, buddy, and we'll talk to you next week.
Talk to you guys next week.
Coach, anything that people can look forward to this weekend? I'm sure your reactions as always, but are you going to be in Saskatchewan at all, or?
Funny thing is, my kids get back from Florida this week, so I'm trying to time it right to bring them with me to Labor Day Classic. I'm trying my best right now. Maybe I may be there, maybe I won't, but I do got some good news. I am going to be at the Calgary game against Riders against Calgary on the 20th. That'll be fun. And I haven't announced it yet, but I'm announcing it here. I bought my ticket to go to Hamilton and Toronto back-to-back days. So I will be torturing the Scamilton fans in their house. And I'm doing a little mock-you series called Enter the Scam. So be on the lookout for that. We're almost at 1,500 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. Join the membership. I will be releasing that little mock-you series for members. Terrorizing them in my Jake Mayer jersey.
Right. I did see that you were going to the game. We're in that little group chat together, and that little Hamilton fan was, oh man, that kid's something else. But I saw he was whatever. I'm gonna buy a
I
ticket
told him,
and
I
sit
said,
next
pull
to
up.
you.
I told him, pull up. I said, pull
I don't
up.
think
If anybody
I
in
don't think he
Hamilton,
knows.
he don't know.
You know, all I'm gonna say is just keep that same energy if Coach pulls up, and I don't think you will. But Coach, appreciate you as always, and enjoy the weekend. Hopefully, you guys are able to get out to Saskatchewan, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. See y'all next week.
thanks,
Later,
Coach.
Coach. And as always, Coach's social medias are in the description as well. That leaves Blake and myself to close out the show. Another good one, buddy. Obviously, I thought I forgot our BCFC picks to be made here, week number 7. Blake, before we get into the picks, buddy, any thoughts? We went through the Labor Day matchups. I think I'm super excited, man. Like I've talked about all the matchups, right? No matter the records going into Labor Day, all that sort of stuff, things kind of get thrown out the window, and the rivalries really get turned up a notch. And these games are really exciting to watch, and you usually can't miss, games on this weekend. So, any thoughts before we get into the BCFC picks?
No, it's just I'm excited. I know that the Alouettes kind of delegation, Tim and Cliffy, they were a little upset. They wanted that Montreal Ottawa thing to be a thing on Labor Day weekend, but I'm really excited that the Lions are really kicking off Labor Day weekend. I mean, I guess technically it depends on who wins the coin toss, but but the Lions and Red Blacks are kicking off Labor Day weekend over in Victoria at Touchdown Pacific. That Riders Blue Bombers game, that's always a fun one to watch. Really, all 4 games. The Edmonton Calgary, that's almost always must see TV. So is Toronto Hamilton. So 4 absolutely stunning games this week. And we say this every week, but this is another week where you do not have an excuse to miss a second of CFL football.
Yes, absolutely. And like you mentioned, Touchdown Pacific kicks it all off, buddy. Super exciting. Our friend Bobby obviously mentions in the chat here, where's CFF headquarters on Friday night? I don't know, Bobby. You tell us. You tell me, I guess, because I don't think Blake's going to be there till Saturday morning. But I will be down Friday morning with the lovely girlfriend. Going to be getting there nice and early. Hopefully, going to make it to walkthrough if we're able to. And then going to enjoy the festivities down there Friday. And then I would imagine, I think festivities kind of end at 7 or something like that. I saw. Would imagine hopefully to continue the festivities out somewhere else. I know there's going to be a lot of CFL family. So, Bobby, I know we have each other on social media. Shoot me a DM. Would love to meet up with you guys and have some fun on Friday night to kick off the weekend. Super looking forward to it, Blake. I'm actually, I guess, a little bit of breaking news right here. I'm actually going to vlog the whole weekend, something I've never done before. We're going to get into a little bit of something a little, we're going to step outside our comfort zone a little bit. I know we've done a little bit of public recording, stuff like that, slightly, but never done a vlog before here on the channel. So I'll start, Friday morning when Carly and I make our way down, share our experience when we're at the festivities, stuff like that. And then Blake will join me whenever Friday morning, Friday afternoon. I'll meet up with Blake and his family. We'll, I'm sure, shoot some sort of pregame content on the maybe on the grounds of Royal Athletic Park, somewhere down there. And then I'm sure Blake will get in the vlog quite a bit. Actually, I'm sure we'll. Actually, where are you sitting?
I am sitting in section, and I know it's really loud here. I walked into the arena for a moment.
Yeah, I can't hear anything besides you, so you're okay.
Okay, so I am sitting in section 21, row 1.
Damn, so I think you're sitting across the field from me then, probably, because I'm sitting in section.
No.
I'm sitting in section 14. If you can hear me all good.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
So I don't know how the setup works. I know there was a little bit of a glimpse at the facility there today throughout the Lions social media, and a few other people posting as well. But I would think, 7 sections away, excuse me. Blake will probably be on the other side of me. That said, Blake will be in a ton of the vlog footage. Planning on doing a little bit of post game, I'm sure, afterwards. I know Blake is probably in a rush to get home. This time, he's actually in a rush to catch a ferry and probably get back to the mainland. So it's a little bit of roles reversed here this weekend, which will be funny. But look out for all the content, folks. It's going to be a good time. Super excited and just can't wait for this experience. I'm really going to take it in and just have a good time. So, Blake, let's get into it, buddy. BCFC week number 7. We're flying by in the CFL, week number 13 already. I'm actually doing a bad job because I am trying to pull up the BCFC games here on the fly because I don't know them.
I actually have it. I have it. I promise I have it. So,
I know
the Raiders.
Langley Rams. I know that.
Yeah. And then the other game is Kamloops and Okanagan. There's only 2 games this week.
Okay, nice. So we're going with 2 picks this week. I will start first. I have been on I guess I'm on the bandwagon, but I've been backing my team, obviously the alumni of the Vancouver Island Raiders, for a few weeks now. I backed them in week 1. They had a disappointing loss, a close one to PG. They ended up having a really close game to Okanagan after that in week 2, and I have backed them ever since. Now, I know Blake gave me the gears to start the show. They got absolutely pumped last week, unfortunately, and there's not a lot of defending outside of the offensive line being hurt. Now, that being said, I'm just going to stop there before I go a little bit too far. Offensive line being hurt. I am going to go this week with the Langley Rams. I am going to go with.
Join the bandwagon, Cole.
I think the smarter pick. Obviously, I'm rooting for the Raiders, still rooting for them. But I believe Mob Squad has taken the one victory lead over me in the season series because of the last few weeks of me backing the Raiders. I think I need to get back with this instead of picking with this, Blake. So we're gonna go with this week. I know it was a close matchup with the Langley Rams the last time these two met in Nanaimo, but that was without Terrell Jones, who I believe you're familiar with as well, brother of.
He is back in the lineup.
What was his brother's name?
Trey.
That was Trey. That was the quarterback there last year. They had a really
with the
Regina Rams.
University. I was gonna say University of Regina.
Yes, they had themselves a very good season last year. Now his brother left. He had a little bit of a slower start to the year, but now he is leading the
I believe
BCFC
some
in yards. I believe with only 3 games played, or he has one less
I
game
believe
played
some
because of the suspension.
disciplinary issues or
Yes,
something
yeah.
along that.
So still leading the conference with one less game played, having himself a phenomenal year, and that was the game he didn't play was against the Vancouver Island Raiders. I think he is a difference maker to give them. They already won, but I think to put them over the top that much more. So I'm going to go with the Langley Rams. I'm sure Blake is as well. We have one more matchup: Kamloops and Okanagan. I think this is easy probably for the both of us. Kamloops, not, or I guess they got a victory last weekend over PG, but
They did.
probably towards the I think the bottom 3 teams of the BCFC is a fair thing to say. Okanagan still up front. I'm going to go with Okanagan. Blake, are you as well?
Yeah, I am. Just quickly about the VI Rams game. I would have said last week that the Rams and Raiders would have been close, kind of like it was. I think it was 3 weeks ago they played each other. But after last week's results, the Rams handily, what have I been telling everyone all season? Handily beating the Valley Huskers. And
In past Grey Cup.
unfortunately, the Raiders kind of losing by more than a few touchdowns, we'll put it that way. So I don't think that'll be close either. And I don't think this other one will be close either. I think it's going to be the Sun in a romp. I think the Sun are the clear number one in the BCFC this year, and we'll see what happens next week when West Shore and Langley play each other. But at this exact moment of the recording, I think the Rams are the number 2 team.
Okay, I think well said. I agree with you. I am on the fence with, I believe you said number 2 team, right? I am on the fence with that, with Okanagan probably being number 1. And after watching West Shore, maybe it's because of how dominant they beat VI last year or last week. I thought they played very well, and they've, I think, moved up in my kind of power rankings, if that's what you want to call it. I have them 2 and 3 with Langley, and I would love to see that matchup once again. I don't know when it's going to be, but when Langley and West Shore plays again, that's going to be one that I keep an eye on for sure, and have my eyes on that one because I think that's going to kind of decide who's going to be that number 2 team and who's going to have home field advantage when they meet in the playoffs. So that's going to do it for the BCFC Week 7 picks. Nice quick one. Blake, any other thoughts, buddy? There's one more thing. I'm trying to see if you remember.
Yep, I remember. Canada West football is kicking off this weekend.
Yes, it is, and it's my bad because I don't have a banner, but we are going to do that as we talk. So, I'm actually also getting together a panel with a few personalities around the Canada West community, and I will announce them because I can't walk and chew gum in a second here. Canada West, week number 1 picks. All right. So, we are going to put together a little panel similar to what I'm doing with the Wizard Takes and Mob Squad. We're going to do some weekly picks, and that is going to start with Gord Randall of Crown Gridiron Countdown, BC guy, I believe, head coach of the Sullivan Heights program here in
He is.
BC, a big time advocate of Canadian football. I believe he played at UBC, if I'm not mistaken. I should know that. And a guy that's big fan of Canada West. I know he does his weekly show with Jim Mullen and Mike Hogan, Toronto Argonauts, as well as Connor O'Neill will be joining us from Canadian Football Perspective, CFP, which, small plug, Connor and I will be live tomorrow night doing a little Canada West preview type thing. He will be joining us as well as Matt Young from CTV Saskatoon, who is Canada West sideline reporter for the Canada West TV. So those 3 guys will be joining us, giving us their weekly picks throughout the year. Like I mentioned, I'll give it into a little graph or a little edit, and I will post it every week on the social media. Blake, this will kick things off every week by you and I talking a little bit about the matchups as well as giving our picks. So let's get into the matchups for Friday night when we have Regina traveling to Calgary. I'm going to take the Calgary Dinos. Who do you got?
I am going to take the Regina Rams. I really like what they did in the offseason. We just mentioned it, in fact. Trey Jones. I don't think he'll be the starter. Correct me if I'm wrong, Cole, but he's on that team now. The Rams kind of sputtered last year. They had some expectations, and they weren't able to fulfill them. But I think they're going to want to turn that around, and they're going to start the Canada West season as a whole on a good foot, and they're going to go to 1-0.
Yeah, tough one for me because obviously I sat down with Josh Donnelly, offensive coordinator of the Regina Rams, put together a little Regina Rams preview. So picking against them is a tough one for me, as well as friend of the show. He came on the podcast. Jackson Sombach was drafted this past year in the CFL draft. He's returning to school. He'll be on the squad once again this season. So tough one for me, but I got to go with Calgary. I have some allegiance there as well. Steen Rasmussen, Nanaimo boy, John Barsby alum. I know he was in the Instagram chat there early on, so I know he'd probably give me the gears if I didn't pick Calgary, but I think I'm going to go with them just because I think they're, I'll be honest, I'll give a little plug here. Theo Bennett, I reached out to him just to get his thoughts on UBC, and I asked about UBC, and I thought it was interesting. He was quick to mention Calgary, and I didn't ask him about the Canada West Conference. I asked him strictly about UBC to put together a few questions for the preview, and he was just he threw that in there as a extra caveat and mentioned that he thinks Calgary's going to be a good team this year and people shouldn't sleep on them. So I'll start week one by picking them. I think this is going to be a close one where Regina and Calgary were towards the bottom. I believe they were 5-6 last year, and I think either team could come out with a victory here on Friday. So UBC hosts Alberta on Friday night as well. 3 games. I'm going to go with UBC. I would think you are as well, but are you going to go with UBC, Blake?
Yeah, I am going to go with the UBC Thunderbirds. I was a little surprised. You and I, we haven't talked about Canada West a lot lately since the CFL and the BCFC conference started. But I was a little surprised when the U Sports rankings came out. Now, it wasn't as surprising when I did find out. Ironically, I was it came out. So they informed me that it's computer generated and it's not voted on by the coaches. But I was still a little surprised to see that UBC is ranked as 3rd in the country. I believe the quarterback from last year is graduated, if I'm not mistaken, Cole.
So Garrett Rooker's coming back.
Oh, so Rooker is coming back. So there you go. That's something I was wrong on. So that's a big boost for UBC. They did, however, lose Theo Benedette. They lost Giovanni Manu. So they lost a couple of big pieces from that Vanier Cup runner-up team. But I will say that I was pleasantly surprised to see that UBC was ranked number 3rd. I believe these two teams split their regular season matchups in 2023. And of course, the Hardy Cup final, the literal last play of the game where UBC scored a touchdown, kicked the convert to win it. I think it's going to be very similar to that game. I don't know if it'll come down to the last play. It might. But UBC picks up where they left off last year. They'll be 1-0 after week number 1.
Yeah, one last thing about UBC as well. When I talked to Theo about a little, kind of update on the team, his thoughts, he was quick to mention that Isaiah Knight has been getting some NFL attention. Some of the scouts that were, at UBC and around the campus last year have really asked about Isaiah Knight, running back for the UBC Thunderbirds. Really like his style of play. Been an all-star level running back here in the Canada West for the last few years, and is a freak. If you look at him, even from sitting in the stands at UBC, I believe he stands, over 6 feet tall. Nice, very well-built young man, and really interested to see, and then hopefully get our eyes on Isaiah and that team once we get out to UBC, hopefully at some point this year. I think they're going to be another good team, like we just talked about. Garrett Rooker returning. I think that's where you start things off at the quarterback position. So, Blake, the last matchup of the week is Saskatchewan traveling to Manitoba. I'm going to go with the Saskatchewan Huskies. Who do you got?
I am going to go with the Manitoba Bison. They were the final team in the Canada West playoffs last year. Of course, everyone remembers what happened. All Calgary had to do was run out the clock, and they could not do it. They fumbled. The Bisons recovered. I believe they scored a touchdown on the final play of the game to cut what was still a Calgary win, Calgary win, but it was a 13-point win instead of a 20-point win. And I believe Calgary had to win by 14 or 15 to win the season series. And the Manitoba Bisons in that Hardy Cup semifinal kept it close for a long time with the UBC Thunderbirds. I believe they held the Thunderbirds within one score all the way until the fourth quarter before the Thunderbirds kind of ran away with it. So I like it. You and I are starting opposite picks here in
Upset.
week
Yeah.
number one, and I will go with the Manitoba Bison.
I like it as well. I think it's good for the show as well, not to pick the same teams. I'm behind the Manitoba Bisons as well. I recorded with actually legendary head coach Brian Doby, I believe the other day, to get a little preview with them as well. And that was something I brought up as well. I said the famous Manitoba Miracle, I believe, is what the kids are calling it. With they scored on that actually play, Blake. They fumbled the ball, and the guy that picked it up ran it in for a touchdown. Like you mentioned, they end up losing that game, but they lose it by less than, I think it was 13 points. Like you said, the point differential was lesser than Calgary, or how much Calgary beat them or whatever. Manitoba gets in the playoffs. They lose 29-21 to UBC, and they were 8 points away from beating them and moving on to play University of Alberta. And I think that's what the best part about the Canada West is the parity and how good all six of the teams are. Not just in the OEA, I think it's a little bit top heavy. Same with the RSAQ. And in the Canada West, man, there is a lot of competitiveness, a lot of parity in the conference, and I think it's a good one when you can tune in on any given week and not be sure who's going to win, or be interested in seeing the matchup between the two programs. So really excited for the season to kick off. Now I'm a little bit bummed because
There
Touchdown
is
Pacific.
Sorry, Cole,
Yep.
I don't mean to cut you off. The OUA, the AUS, and I believe the RESQ kicked off last week.
Right.
And I believe the AUS, as they've done for multiple years, they are streaming free this year, as well as
OUA.
I was going to say the OUA is streaming free this year. So do I have that backwards? The OUA is streaming free, and the AUS is now pay-per-view. Is that correct, Cole? Or
I don't know for sure. I know OUA's been for a little bit because of when my friend Malik Besker was at
yep.
University of Western from 15 to 2019. I was able to tune in for games at OUA TV for free. So I know OUA's been doing it for a while. But still, I love your point because Canada West, please. They actually did a pretty good job of providing a season's pass, which I would recommend to any of the fans out there that want to get into that sort of thing. I believe it's $39.99 instead of paying $8.99 for every game. You pay a one-time
dang,
39
$40 for the whole year?
the whole season. So yes,
That's like
I just bought.
you get like 2 free weeks basically.
Yeah, so I just bought that the other day for the season's pass. I think it's a really good thing. You can also watch the games on demand, which is where I was going. Super excited for the Canada West season to kick off. But as maybe I guess you might be able to tune into a game or two. But I'm going to be at Touchdown Pacific, so I'm sure I will either be meeting up with Bobby or Dave or whoever it may be from the CFL family and enjoying my time at Touchdown Pacific. So I don't believe I'm going to be able to watch live, but as we were talking about with the seasons pass, you can watch it on demand. So hopefully, maybe some points Sunday when I'm recovering and not the Bombers and Saskatchewan game is on, I'll be able to throw on, the UBC game or whatever it may be and able to catch up on some of the action from week one. And then once the season, or I guess once Touchdown Pacific is over, next week I'll be able to consume some of the more action on Fridays and Saturdays as well. As I'm sure you will be hopefully when you're not, I know, busy or at the rink or at working,
Yeah.
whatever you may be. I know the grind continues. So I know you've been a little bit overboard, Blake. Let's end the show there. Hour 40 minutes, buddy.
There's one.
Talk.
Sorry, Cole.
Yep.
Before we end the show, there is one more thing, and I promise this is the last one. But BC school sports, technically week 0 has started this week. I don't know if you are helping out with Nanaimo again this year, but I am once again doing stats for the New Westminster Hayaks. And a bit of a shameless plug, the Hayaks are ranked 5 in AAA to start the season. They're actually down in Georgia this week. They are playing Mary Parsons down in Atlanta, Georgia. And then next week, the BC high school sports football season kicks off with week number 1.
And do you think maybe there's a little chip on the shoulder from that 5th ranking in the Hayaks program?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're gunning for number 1. That's where we want to be at the end of the year.
Awesome, Blake. Looking forward to it, buddy. I wish the Hayaks made a trip out to Nanaimo or something like that. I'd definitely come and meet up with you. But hopefully you have a bunch of fun this year. I know you will, being on the sideline of football. How can you not have fun? But, Blake, I think that'll end another week, another weekly show here on the program. week number 13. I don't know how many shows this is for Blake and I consecutive. I want to say maybe approaching maybe 16, 17 with some
Yep.
preseason shows in there as well. And then all the shows back to free agency and stuff like that. It has just become honestly a blur now. The week begins. I start the week. It's Wednesday. I know it's Wednesday, and then it's Friday somehow because of just how fast it goes by and how much we're having to do. But we love this time. This is, like I said, a few weeks from now. These are the weeks that I miss when it's the off season and there's no football and stuff like this. This is the time that I really enjoy of having a lot of football on and being really busy. So I know Blake and I would not rather have it any other way. Really looking forward to seeing you this weekend, buddy. It's going to be a good time to visit with you, the CFL family as well, and hopefully get some good content there at Touchdown Pacific. So as always, Blake's social media is in the description below. Same with mine. Blake, any final thoughts to close us out, buddy?
No, I'm tapped out. I said everything I needed to say. So let's get Labor Day kicked off because you know what happens after Labor Day, Cole?
Everything matters from Labor Day on. That's exact. I forgot to say that when I was picking BC.
No, that's
Damn.
not even what I was gonna say. I was
Oh,
gonna
what were
say
you gonna
my
say?
birthday happens after Labor Day.
Oh, my bad, buddy. My bad. When's that? What's the date again?
It's the day after the show next week, so it'll be on the 5th.
Damn, too bad we couldn't have the show on your. I'm sure you want to do some more fun things in the show, but that would have been fun to maybe wish you happy birthday or something on the show. But we will do it anyways. Maybe we'll sing you happy birthday or something on the show. We'll celebrate somehow, and we will definitely celebrate on Saturday as well. I'm excited to see you, buddy, and it's been a while. I know we weren't able to link up
Too
the
long.
last time I was in Vancouver for the Lions game. I was in quick and out, so excited to reconnect, do some content. One last plug. Stay tuned tomorrow. I will be releasing Josh Donnelly's episode with the Regina Rams preview, offensive coordinator of the Regina Rams, former player as well. A 40-minute episode where I sat down with him, able to preview this year. Now, it didn't turn out the way things I wanted to. Some programs were rightfully so just wanting to, keep things a little bit more quiet. So wasn't able to record with as many programs as promised and as hoped. But like I mentioned, we recorded with Josh Donnelly. That will be coming out tomorrow. Thursday. Friday morning, we will be releasing the second one with Manitoba Bison's illustrious head coach, Brian Doby. And then Thursday night, we'll be going live on the platform with Connor O'Neill of CFP to preview the whole conference as a whole. So we'll be talking UBC, U of Alberta, University of Calgary, Manitoba, Regina, and Saskatchewan, all 6 of them, and give a little bird's eye view from the conference going into the matchups on Friday. And then Blake and I will be at Touchdown Pacific. Expect a ton of content there. Expect a vlog next week. The content does not stop. Lastly, like, comment, subscribe when you guys subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you guys get notified every time Blake and I go live or post any sort of content. You guys won't regret it. And we appreciate it so much. Deep breath, Blake. That'll do it for this week's show. And we will see you guys next Wednesday.